Fathers of Reddit, what is the worst boyfriend your daughters have brought home? I was that girl who brought the bad boyfriend home. He was a German exchange student, and I was at an age where all that mattered was the sexy accent. My stepdad, who worked for the government, did a background check on him because he felt like something was off. I feel like he did background checks on all my boyfriends, but that's a different story. We find out his student visa expired last year, and he's in the country illegally. He reports him to his superior. My stepdad gets my boyfriend deported. End of relationship. You thought German accents were sexy? My daughter, age 16 at the time I think, once brought home a trailer park hero. Blank, glassy eyes, a dead fish handshake, and a mouth that just hung open all the time, aka catching flies. He never wanted to go anywhere or do anything, just wanted her to come to his trailer, or house, obviously to fool around. I attempted to be polite and speak to the young man, but he could only vaguely nod and answer in monosyllables, and excused himself to leave quickly. The moment he did, I simply looked at her and asked, "Really?" Fortunately, it only lasted another couple of days after that. I have to say the 15-year-old boy that climbed in my 15-year-old daughter's window the past Saturday night is not high on my list of favorites. Like just randomly, or was he invited? Because those are two very different situations. She opened the window, so is that invited? I'm Hispanic and used to have a temper as a teen. Met a girl who seemed to like me but always tried encouraging me to do stupid shit. Let's race those guys. Woman, no. I love this car, I ain't risking it. For some reason she wanted me to meet her cop dad. So I did. We hit it off over a mutual love of motorcycles and Rush music. And he invited me to a barbecue. The girl hated that her dad loved me. Apparently she wanted him to hate me. She dumped me the next day. I really wanted that barbecue. He knew. He torpedoed the whole thing by getting along with you. Clever bastard. This one time my daughter came home and the guy was literally carrying her in his arms when he opened the door. Didn't knock or anything, he also had the arms of another chick around his waist. I couldn't believe my eyes, the tenacity, and just utter PDAs in front of me. He gave the one girl on his left a kiss, then put my daughter down and kissed her as well. I didn't know what else to really say at the time except thanks for bringing her home, and we'll see you at dinner next Wednesday. My daughter then ran up to me and gave me a hug and sat on my lap, and told me what they did that day. I sat there in silence, just trying to understand it all. After about 2 minutes of this I told her it was time to go upstairs, that it was bedtime. She cried about it, but I explained to her that 8 o'clock is really late for a 2-year-old to stay up, and she will see her uncle next week when they come for dinner. Daughter here. My dad is a drug cop and I brought a boy home. My dad pulled me aside and said, "You're too old for me to tell you what to do, but I interrogated that boy a few months ago and all he did was play the air guitar the whole time. I continued to date him for a few months, then it ended. He rocked that air guitar though." I love this. Narcotics officer interrogating me? Fuck, time to rip a crazy long air solo since I'm so high. I like how he tells you the facts and lets you judge for yourself, and you still dated him. He was a black gangsta-style teen who couldn't stop staring at my daughter's ass, would grab at it when she got off the couch in front of our whole family, and would regularly adjust his package through his basketball shorts as he walked behind my daughter. One kid she brought home ended up being a stalker, then ended up sneaking into our home at 4 a.m. after they had broke up. He and I had a short, severely unpleasant little chat. Threats of severe injury may have been discussed. He never showed his face again. Daughter and I were both happy with the outcome. Did you tell him about a particular set of skills you've acquired over a long career? Not exactly, as this happened before the movie. But believe me, the message of an enraged adult coming at a 16-year-old kid made its point. The hand around the throat helped. Nobody messes with my daughter. Period. Edit. This all happened a while ago. Daughter is now happily married and has 3 children of her own, and they are adorable, and their dad, he will protect his girls in a way I approve of. I'm a daughter who brought home an idiot. He was terrified of my parents because he was an atheist and my parents are Christian. Before he even met them, he'd get drunk and ramble about giving them the what for if they tried to convert him. Yes, I'd pick winners. My dad is a gentle bear of a man, and my mum is a little lady. They're an older couple and the nicest people I've ever met. He projectile vomited in the restaurant bathroom before he sat down to eat with everyone for their first meeting. When I moved in with him, he insisted on getting a buzz on before they would visit. When I got really sick, I asked him to take me to the clinic. He declined in favor of band practice. My dad ended up driving down to make sure I was okay and even cooked me breakfast. When he dumped me, because yes, I was too stupid to do it myself, I called my dad crying my head off. He listened to me rant for a few minutes and then said quietly, "At least you didn't get pregnant. I will always be grateful for that." That's rough. You never realize you're in a bad relationship until you aren't in it anymore. Totally. It gives me the heebs-jeebs just thinking about how completely blind I was. My dad was especially supportive through the whole thing. You have to make your own mistakes, it's a part of learning. But if he ever tries to talk to you again, I will make him disappear. My daughter had dated a string of some real good kids who had good heads on their shoulders, good prospects for success in life, but dumped each one as just not what she was looking for. She then went through what her two older brothers liked to call the bum of the month club, each one she brought home to meet me even worse than the last. I was at the point of telling her that she needed to reassess her standards upwards a tad before she really found a true loser who would end up hurting her. She found him. It was bad. She came around. In the end, it was his ass getting hurt, however. He thought he was a tough guy and tried to physically harm my daughter after she tried to tell him it was over, which was a huge mistake on his part. This kid was 6 feet 1 inch and 185, wore wife beaters, backwards hat and droopy drawers, and thought he was a tough guy. White suburban punk, you've seen them. My daughter was a four-sport athlete her entire school career and had her college education covered by an athletic scholarship. When he showed up at a party she was at, even with the restraining order against him, and grabbed her arm and wouldn't let go, she hit him so hard flush on the side of the jaw that it tore his left earlobe off of his head, chipped 3 teeth while putting a hole through his cheek in the process, and knocked him clean out with one punch. It was a good thing there were witnesses, as she was arrested for aggravated assault when they had to call the squad to take the kid to the ER to patch his ass back together. The charges were dropped. Soon after I got home early that Sunday morning, her brother pulled into the drive after picking my daughter up at the local PD. Her white blouse was brown with the splotchy stains of dried blood. The first thing she said to me was, "Don't worry, Dad, none of it's mine. My little girl." Mercenary-hearted little blue-eyed blonde. I brought home the moron. He was a pothead who chain-smoked. Whenever my dad or mom would check up on us, as parents do, he would yell at them to give us our privacy. He started talking about having kids with me and told my mom that he had been poking holes in rubbers. She went redneck on him right then and there. I'm the daughter who brought home the losers. When I was 16, I met this cute guy in school and we'd only hung out a few times. We liked each other but didn't really know each other that well. But I brought him home to meet my parents anyway, and it immediately went downhill. My parents tried to make small talk with him, and one of the first things he told them was that he was bipolar and schizophrenic, had severe ADHD, and once stabbed a pencil through his hand on a dare. But it didn't hurt, haha, and kept referring to his mom as that bitch. And just a bunch of other bizarre stuff you don't tell the parents of the girl you like. He had never told me any of that stuff before, nor did he act strange either, so I was blindsided. My dad, who has never had much of a filter, said, "Okay pal, this isn't happening. You can go on ahead and leave the same way you came in." I was mortified but secretly relieved my dad asked him to leave. The only other interaction I had with that kid was 4 or 5 months later when he started dating some other girl, and we were sitting in class one day, and he leaned over and asked me, "Can a girl get pregnant from giving a blowjob?" Facepalm. Can she? It's the only way. How else would the baby get in her stomach? I was the black guy most of the white girls in my high school dated. I was on the debate team and a mathlete, also did track. All the fathers were suspicious of me because I didn't like basketball. My beautiful, brilliant, scholarship-winning daughter fell in love with a homeless heroin addict in Portland, Oregon, about 10 years her senior. Not too much later, my daughter was also a homeless drug addict in Portland and he was in jail. We're now 5 months into rehab sobriety, but she still pines for this piece of shit. What a fact did I do wrong? I don't know if this fits the question because she never brought him to my home. I'm not a father, but I have a good story about this. My sister dated a guy through most of high school. He was nice enough, headed to the military, and eventually my sister decided to split with after a year or two in college. He was obsessed with my sister, and they had a big fight, but she stuck to her guns and said they were done. In the middle of the night, he drove drunk over to our house, pulled his truck up next to the garage, climbed up his truck onto the roof of the garage, pulling off the gutter in the process, carefully climbed his way to my sister's window and knocked. It terrified her. She ran over to my mother's room. My dad was working at the hospital overnight, and my mom answered the window. He was in serious trouble. My mom gently told him to get down from the roof, took his keys and made his friend come drive him home. I've never seen my dad that angry, but he never got to say anything to the guy, because my dad wasn't a confrontational person. If he were there though when the guy climbed the roof and scared my sister, I'm fairly sure he would have murdered him. In high school I had a boyfriend who everyone in my family, mom, dad, brothers, used to make jokes about because he was so obviously gay. I ignored it and dated him for about a year. He's a woman now. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.